All right, a number of Democratic candidates have already thrown their hat in the ring for 2020. Democratic primary quickly turning into a contest who can be the most radical. Here with reaction from the Trump Organization. He's the son's president. Eric Trump, good to see you. The baby is getting so big so fast. Congratulations.
It's a good little boy. He's great.
I love the picture in the Oval Office. All right, you just saw what we played. You can't have the choice of health care. We're going to stop drilling natural gas, all our resources, all the jobs with it, the lifeblood of our economy. And I'm listening and I'm saying, this is great for your father.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the Democrats are not the party of JFK. They've become so radicalized. I mean, do you want 70% taxes? You know, you look at Kamala Harris, she always goes after ICE. She calls them, you know, the KKK. You remember that famous interview?
Yeah, played it last night.
They don't want law and order. They want to tax people to death. They want to get businesses out of this country. They want to let anybody in this country. They want to bankrupt the system through free health care for all. You heard her saying before, right? You know, let's just eliminate private health care and
all of it. You don't have the choice.
She had to walk back that comment because it was so ridiculous. I mean, how do you pay for this stuff? I mean, we would become Venezuela. We'd become so many of these other countries. It doesn't work. That's not what America's about. I mean, America's about hardworking people. America's about capitalism. America's the greatest country in the world because, you know, people work for that American dream. And it seems like
Elizabeth Warren wants another bite at the apple after you paid all your taxes.
I mean, it's insane. And they've become so radicalized, and it's not going to work. They've become crazy. I mean, the message doesn't even make sense anymore. It's almost an anti-American message. It's, you know, totally open borders.
It's not the values that has grown this into the envy of the world.
No, and look at where we are right now. We've got the greatest economy in the world. We've got one of the safest countries in the world. We have a military that's totally rebuilt, the highest consumer confidence, manufacturing's coming back, lowest unemployment. You know, groups that, you know, had big, you know, employment problems, African Americans, you know, Hispanics, et cetera, all-time unemployment lows. I mean, this country is doing awesome. And all they're trying to do is attack him. I mean, they don't want him to succeed at anything because he's done such a damn good job. They don't want him to succeed at anything, you know, and that's why you see them constantly. I mean, they've become the party of obstruction and nonsense and investigations because they have nothing else. I mean,
Eric,
they have nothing else.
I've known your dad for over a couple of decades.
He's the greatest guy in the world.
Okay, he is a great guy. And personality-wise, if people knew the guy I knew. Here's the funny thing. So there's a shift in strategy. All right, shut down. They won't even talk to me. I'll give you 3 weeks. Do your job. I am 99% certain, and I have no inside knowledge at all. I am 99% certain that when they can't do a deal and do their job, your father's going to go to Plan B. That means they get no DACA, no Dreamer help, none of the things they say they wanted, and they can shop it to do judge shopping, go to the Ninth Circuit. I think as Commander-in-Chief, stopping heroin, stopping cartels, gang members, and some that commit crime, not the 98%, but the 2%, that's his job. That's what he swore to upheld, to keep the American people safe.
And that's why the American people elected him, because he's a fighter, and he would fight for what's right and wrong. And then you hear Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, well, you know, we'll negotiate, but we're only going to negotiate when government's open. But then they don't actually come out and negotiate. And then you have Pelosi, as you just said, well, I'll give you $1 toward your wall, but, you know, I want to spend $5 million on, drones to fly over the southern border, which aren't going to be effective at all. I mean, when can we start using some common sense in this country? When can you stop the drugs, stop the criminals, stop MS-13, have people come into the system legally? We want immigration, but we want legal immigration.
You want to vet you?
The right way.
Here's what your dad was fighting for. He was fighting against drugs, human trafficking, drug trafficking, life and death issues for Americans, angel moms and dads. I've interviewed a number of them. He's fighting for security and safety of the American people. What was Nancy and Chuck fighting for? What were they fighting for?
You know, all they're fighting for is to make sure he doesn't achieve the agenda that he promised to achieve. They realize he's winning on everything else. So how can we, obstruct that message? And you see those angel moms. I mean, I ran into one. They lost a child a couple weeks ago, and I remember her holding the picture, and she's showing me this
4,000 homicides.
And this is what we're fighting for. I mean, this is what we're fighting for, as well as having a country and having laws. And you see what some of the immigration problems are doing to so many other countries around the world.
So the conservatives, do you agree with me? One way or the other, he's not giving up. He's going to.
I want him to declare emergency. You want my opinion? I want.
Oh, I think he will.
You know what? If they don't come to the table, he said, you know what? I'm going to open up government. And let's see if they were actually being truthful, that once government was reopened, that they would come to the table and negotiate something that's fair. And honestly, if they don't, declare the emergency, build the wall with the United States military, because that's what people in this country want. And you know what? And then redouble your efforts on legal immigration. Get great people in this country, because that's what America wants, and that's what America needs, and quite frankly, our economy needs those jobs because unemployment's so low that we need those jobs, but do it legally.
He's kept all the promises, and some people, what have you done in the last 30 seconds? Switching strategies, he's not going to stop. I think I know him pretty well. He's that tenacious. I would agree with you. I think that's where he's going.
He's the greatest guy in the world.
I
couldn't be more proud of him.
Well, the country's doing a lot better. Thank God.
The country's doing incredible.
Well, that didn't take long. The Democrats' newest it girl of income redistribution, Kamala Harris, is already taking big heat from liberal bigwigs. We'll play it for you in a moment. Now, why on earth would they pick on someone as brilliant and as accomplished as Senator Harris? Well, perhaps because she doesn't understand basic economics.
You support the Medicare for All bill. I think initially,
Correct.
I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
It sounds so simple. Let's move on. Wasn't that Michelle Obama? Well, anyway, the coffee guy is now saying, oh, not so fast.
That's not correct. That's not American. What's next? What industry are we going to abolish next? That alone would wipe out millions of jobs of Americans. And that is the kind of extreme policy that is not a policy that I agree with. And if you take immigration, you take health care, what we have is extremes on both sides, not representing the large majority of Americans who don't have a voice.
Now, Schultz is a businessman, and he's certainly no conservative. But he sees the writing on the wall here. He knows that the Democrat Party is moving so far left that it's leaving America. Democrat darlings like Kamala Harris are proposing disastrous socialist solutions to things like health inequality or wealth inequality. Those are the kind of concepts that were once left to late-night seminars in college. Forget the $32 trillion cost or the 500,000 insurance company jobs that would be lost in the Sanders-Harris-Warren plan of Medicare for all. The fastest way, by the way, to sink Medicare is to give it to all, not just to the elderly. It will go broke that much faster, maybe even in 5 years. So even if you tax the rich to death, you still can't pay for Medicare for all. Doctors and hospitals would face pay cuts. They're already facing them today. That means more hospitals closing, more doctors retiring or not going into the profession at all, longer waits for even serious procedures. And ultimately, this will lead, my friends, to ration care according to age, weight, and yes, other pre-existing health problems. But don't worry, because when you wait in line for the procedure, at least you'll be comforted to know that the government is pursuing Kamala's green energy fantasy.
I support a Green New Deal. And I will tell you why. Climate change is an existential threat to us, and we have got to deal with the reality of it. We have got to deal with the reality of the fact that there are people trying to peddle some idea that we should deny it, and they're peddling science fiction instead of what we should do, which is rely on science fact.
So what does the Green New Deal mean for you and your family? Well, it means the government would reach in and control, monitor, and tax even more aspects of your daily life than it does now. You love your car as much as I do? Mine's 19 years old. I still love it. Too bad. The Green Party's Green New Deal calls for replacing non-essential individual means of transport with high quality and modern mass transit. This is kind of a geeky way of instituting a ban on cars. But who decides whether your car is a non-essential individual means of transport? Maybe Kamala and crew will bring back Obama's green job czars. Why not? To achieve their green transport utopia, quote, it will be necessary to electrify everything else, including transport. So if you love your SUV, your sedan, heck, your hatchback, too bad. Only electric. And if you were deemed worthy of owning a car at all, well, remember, in Kamala's gas-free world, the government gas bags have all the power. And even big gulp banning, bike lane mandating, Mike Bloomberg is balking at Harris's green folly.
I'm a little bit tired of listening to things that are pie in the sky that we never are going to pass or never going to afford. I think it's just disingenuous to promote those things. You've got to do something that's practical.
Now, that means banning all coal, banning all cars, banning all nuclear power, taxing miles driven, taxing kilowatts used, taxing water used. It would be all on the table to force Americans to bend to the faddish trends of the socialist left. Now, more power for them, less power, freedom, and prosperity for you. It's always how it works in a fully centralized economy. And this is what is lighting the Democrat Party on fire today, really? Instead of kibitzing with the NRDC, Kamala should have consulted first with, I don't know, Kermit.
It's not that easy being green.
Well, it's not, because as the Kaiser Family Foundation found recently, support for Medicare for all drops like a rock when you know how much it's going to cost you. Same deal with the green agenda when people find out how much it costs. Now get this, 56% of survey respondents initially said they favored Medicare for all as the whole plan. But when they're faced with the prospects of paying higher taxes to fund the system, and by the way, the elimination of private health insurance companies, support falls to only 37%. And when told that the new plan could actually threaten the current Medicare program, only 32% remained in favor. My friends, this is why it's so critical for the Trump administration, the entire cabinet, and the Republican Party to have a full court press of facts out there to educate vulnerable voters on the green economy issues, on Medicare for all of it. History shows us that socialist ideas are always easy to sell to uninformed, indoctrinated, and sometimes desperate voters. But it's impossible to fully fund. It never works. It's a false promise of free stuff forever. But as always, you eventually run out of other people's money. Kamala Harris, I don't know, would do better pursuing maybe a career as a DJ?
A song that has to be played loud because you have to hear the bass. The Sun is Shining by Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Or maybe a backup singer.
One nation under a groove, getting down just for the funk of it. Can I get it on the... Wow!
Or, I don't know, a voiceover artist?
You're right?
If you buy what she's selling, she may have the last laugh, but you're going to be crying all the way to the government-owned bank. And that's the angle.